CSS Outline Text and Fonts. Okay, setting up the outline. The concept: a CSS outline is a special line drawn outside the border box. It's used to apply special color and pattern formatting to the box element container. This allows the element to be stylized. For example, here we have our content box, and then outside we have our padding, then outside this we have our border, and then outside this is the outline. This is where the outline pattern and colouring appears, and it overlaps the margin. The CSS properties for outline are as follows. We've got outline style, outline colour, outline width, outline offset, and shortcut outline. The outline is just outside the border box. Outline styles. We can have different outline styles. We've got none, which means there's no outline styling. We can have it dashed, so we have a dashed border around the box. We can have double line box. We can have a 3D inset box. We can have a dotted box. We can have a solid box. We can have a grooved, 3D grooved box. We can have a 3D ridged box. We can have an 3D outset box, and we can have a hidden box, which is not displayed. Right, code examples that we've got here are as follows. CSS code examples for a div container. We can have a .ridge class, and we can call it outline style ridge, outline style dashed, outline style solid, outline style inset, outline style dotted, outline style double, outline style groove, and outline style outset. If we have a look at one of the web, we can go to our w3.org standards web design HTML, CSS, and this is where the CSS standards are created and published. So if you want to see what's happening in the CSS world, the latest and greatest, and find out what current standards are and what they do, and find more information about the CSS specification, this is a good place to go. Okay, moving on to outline width. Now, this describes the width of the outline box, so how wide the outline box is. And the values that we can use for this are thin, which is approximately 1 pixel, thick, which is approximately 3 pixels, medium, which is approximately 5 pixels, and the size of the sizing can be in different units. You can use pixels, or you can use points, centimeters, millimeters, etc. The CSS code is as follows. You can have outline dash width. You can set it to thin, thick, medium, or a number of pixels. Outline color. This describes the color of the outline box. So we can have color name like red, green, yellow, blue, orange, or we can have the hex decimal RGB format, which is for example here hash FFCCAA, or we can have RGB function where you've got RGB brackets in decimal numbers, the 3 channels, red, green and blue. And you've got the HSL function, which is HSL brackets 50%, 10%, 80%. Again, these are the 3 channels, your red, green, blue channels. This is saying user go up to 50% of the red channel, go up to 10% of the red channel, and go up to 80% of the red channel. Here, for example, 50% of the red channel would be half of 255, if this was the 100%, then that would be equivalent to RGB 255. You can also invert the color to what it is presently, so this will invert the color to whatever the color's been set. Maybe it's been set by another CSS function somewhere else, and then you can invert it. The outline color command is as follows in CSS code. Outline color, we can say :pink, hash FFCCA, which is the hexadecimal value for the coloring, RGB function, HSL function, or the invert command. Outline shortcuts. This describes the use of shortcuts in CSS syntax for outline. A shortcut is just an abbreviation, a shorter format for doing writing the same command, and it just saves space. For example, instead of having outline width, style, and color, we can just have up here. We can have outline colon and dotted, so that's just outline style. Dotted red is the style and color, and outline 3 pixels dashed green is the width, the style, and the color. So that's a quick way of doing it. A quick way of writing the CSS command, saving space, and easier to read and maintain. Okay, let's have a look at some of the code behind the outline command. Now, for example, here we're in our Visual Studio Code editor. We've got some CSS code, and we've got we're using outline style, dotted, solid, groove, inset, dashed, double, ridge, and outset in our style block. And then further down we've got some div boxes in our HTML. We've got some div class dotted, dashed, solid, double, groove, ridge, inset, and in there we've got text as well. And yeah, so we've got a range of colors and styles. So if we have a look in our HTML in the Chrome browser on the right hand side here, we've got the output, and yeah, so looking in our Chrome browser output, we've got first one, which is this one, dotted. So this is a dotted outline. This is a dashed outline. This is a solid outline. This is a double outline. This is a grooved outline. This is a ridge outline. 3D ridge, 3D inset outline, and an outset outline. And we've set the color to, in our outline color, we've set the color to light blue, which is RGB 21221 to 11. So let's have a look at another outline command. Here we're using the outline command shortcut. So we're saying it's 1 pixel, solid, and green, yellow. Its color, the outline offset is 25 pixels, and the offset refers to how far away it is from the margin. So you can offset it from the margin, from the border, by so many pixels if you want to leave extra space between the border and and the outline. So in this example we've got, so we're going for a div section with margin 20, background pink, 1 pixel solid orange border, outline is 1 pixel solid green yellow, and outline offset is 25 pixels. So let's view that. So as we can see, here we've got our background color is pink, which is the color, the background color to the text itself is pink. And then we have, around it we have a margin of 20 pixels, which is up here, and which is up here. And then we have a border of 1 pixel orange. And then we have an outline of 1 pixel solid green. So the green, yellow is overlapping the border pixel color, so you can't see it very well, and the outline offset is 25 pixels. Let's change the border to 5 pixels. See what happens. So there we go, we can see the border now. So we've got the content, we've got the content box, the border, we've got the content box, we've got the padding, then we've got the border, which is the orange, and then we've got 25 pixels space between the border, and then we've got the green outline shown there. If we zoom that in, you can see much more detail. So you can see this is our content, and then between the content and the border, the orange border, we have some padding, maybe about 2 or 3 pixels. So we have 5 pixels of border, then we have 25 pixels before we get the outline, which is the green box out here. So we have, between there and there, we have 25 pixels. So let's have a look at another example. So if we have a look at this example, which is very similar to the one we had before. So if we zoom in here, okay, on this one, if we zoom in, we've got 1 pixel orange, 1 pixel green, and we can see the actual, see the dotted text, and there's padding around it, and then there's the border, which is the orange, very thin. Then we've got 25 pixels. The orange is 1 pixel thick. Then outside we have 25 pixels, and then we have 1 pixel green. So yeah, that's great. That works. Okay, as mentioned before, the outline offset is allows you to put some space between the border and the start of the outline. You can set this in different sizes. You can set it in pixels, points, centimeters or millimeters. For example, you can set outline offset to be 25 pixels. The outline properties that we've just covered so far in the course are as follows. So outline properties, outline, which is a shortcut format. So outline brackets, you can put 3 parameters in, 3 or 4 parameters in as you require. Outline color, outline offset, outline style, and outline width. Okay, section 2, setting up text. CSS text formatting allows you to set up how text will be displayed. CSS text can be formatted using fonts, colors, sizing and justification. For example, we have in this diagram here, we have some styling applied to text. We have yellow text, and then we have left justified text. We can set the text color by using the color command, and the way we do that is by using color:green. So we can set the body color, text color by using the body selector and then curly brackets, say color:green. That will set all of the body text to green. If we have a look at our Visual Studio Code, and we have a look at our browser output. Let's just refresh this. So in our code, we've got H1 is color yellow. So what we're doing is we're using H1. In this block here, we've got text align center. So that's aligning the text transform. It's making it into uppercase, and text color is setting the color to yellow. And that's shown on the right hand side up here. At the top, we have CSS text styling. We have a paragraph here, which is paragraph text. Again, we say with paragraph text, we say text, indent the text 30 pixels. So that's on the first line of the paragraph, indented by 30 pixels. Next, align the text to center. And then let's set the letter spacing to 5 pixels. So that's for a paragraph. We can set the decoration of the text. We can set the text decoration to have a dashed border around the text. We can set the text color to be orange. And then further down we've got different sections which apply those settings. So looking on the right hand side, we have colored text. We have normal text, left justified, with spacing of 5 pixels. Space between each of these. For example, here we've got the space between each letter is 5 pixels. Then we've got text color. So this is where we set the text color. We can set the text background. So this is where we can set the text background color to yellow. We can set the alignment of text to right justified text, center text, and this is left justified text. Well, this is just right hand left justified text. So it goes to the right hand side and the left hand side, and then we've got just left justified text. We've also got the indent being applied to our paragraph, which is this bit here. It's a 30 pixel gap. Text decoration can apply different effects to our text to make it look different. So this is text decoration none, but we do have 5 pixels between each text, so that's your text spacing. that we had. So with the border we've got 5 pixels there, and then we have our letter spacing 5 pixels here in our paragraph. So this is our letter spacing of the individual letters by 5 pixels. This is line through text. This is, let's go further up a bit. So this is normal text, but spacing is 5 pixels. Line spacing, character spacing is, letter spacing is 5 pixels. This is line through text. This is overline text. This is underline text. We can also apply, as shown down here in this block, we can also apply text shadow, and we can apply vertical and horizontal offset to text. So at the moment with this we have the original text, and then we have then you can see the shadow text, but that you can apply an offset to the shadow text horizontally and vertically. So you can apply 5 pixels vertical offset, which is going down, and 5 pixels horizontal offset, which is going across, and that's the reason why you've got the text appearing the way it is here. Okay, and text background color. We can set the color of the background of any text on our web page, and the way we do that is by using the background color command property, and we say, for example, we set it to yellow. We can also use any color formatting command, RGB, HSL. We can set it by the color name, RGB, RGBA, HSL, etc. We've got an example, output example here. We've got this green text shown here with the background color set to yellow. Text alignment. We can align text in different ways. We can left align it, right align it, center it, and justify it. For example, we have some output example here. We have some text which is centered. So this green text is placed in the center of your web page. And the way you align the text is by using the text-align property. We can set the value to center, to left, to right, and to justify. Text direction. This sets up the text direction. To do this, you need to set up a Unicode BD property, which controls bidirectional text algorithm and how the algorithm works. The algorithm is built into the Unicode logic, and it decides the best way to display your text. For example, in different languages you have text which goes from right to left, and the bidirectional algorithm looks at the text, and it is designed to present the text in the most easy way to read for the end user. So what we need to do in this case is, if we're telling the browser that the text needs to go from right to left, then what we need to do is we need to switch off the Unicode BD algorithm, because otherwise it will take priority and change and may produce an effect which is opposite to what we want. The values that we can use in this example in setting the text direction are RTL, which stands for right to left text direction, and BIDI override, which means to cancel the BIDI algorithm. And in CSS, the way we do this is we say Unicode-BIDI, set that to BIDI override, set the direction to RTL. The BIDI override cancels the bidirectional text algorithm. We can align text vertically as well, and the values for that are top. We can align the text to go to the top of the vertical space. We can align the text to go in the middle of the vertical space available for the text, or we can align the text to go to the bottom of the vertical space that is available for the text. The properties are vertical-align, top, middle and bottom. Text decoration. This sets up a pattern around or through the displayed text. The values for this can be none, so we can have no text decoration. For example, on hyperlinks, the hyperlinks are by default, they're usually underlined, but if you want to remove the underline on a hyperlink text, then you can choose the text decoration to be none and the underline will be removed. We can also have line through, so we can have a line through the text. Overline, we can have a line above the text. Underline, we can have a line underneath the text. We use the text in CSS, we use the text decoration property, and we give it a value of none, a line dash through, overline or underline. I've got an output example here from a web page. So this is, first line here is normal text. So this is text decoration none. This is text decoration line through. This is text decoration overline with the line above it. And this is text decoration underline. Text transformation. We can transform the text to be upper or lowercase. The values available for this are lowercase and uppercase. Looking at the CSS code, we've got the property text transform, text-transform, set it to lowercase, or we can set it to uppercase. Text spacing. We can set up the spacing between the letters in the text. There are different options for spacing your text. We can do text indent, which indents the beginning of your paragraph by so many pixels. For example, in a novel or a chapter, you always want the beginning of the first line of your chapter to be indented in a story. Letter spacing, you can put more spacing between the letters. Word spacing, you can put more spaces between the words. White space, you can put more white space. And you can tell the browser to ignore the white space. So you can say wrap or no wrap. If not, the normal default is when you have white space between words, the browser will wrap your text in the container. But if you don't want it to be wrapped, then you can set that to no wrap. And line height is the height of your letters, your text that's being displayed. So looking at the CSS code, we've got text indent, so indenting the first line of your paragraph by 20 pixels, for example. Letter spacing, we put 20 pixels spacing between the letters. Word spacing, again, we can put 5 pixel spacing between the words. Line height we can set to 3.0, which means set it to 300%. And white space we can say no wrap. So we can say if there is white space between the words and you reach the end of the line, don't wrap around to the next line, just carry on in that direction as you would normally. Text shadow, we can apply a shadow to text in a which can be vertical or horizontal shadow. Vertical shadow, the value of 1 is first value. Horizontal shadow is the value, second value. Blur is the third value, and color is the fourth value. So in our text shadow command, as an example here, text-shadow, the first value 5 pixels is your vertical shadow, the second value is 3 pixels is your horizontal shadow, and 1 pixel is the blur. So that's like how much blur is applied to the text. And then finally we have the fourth parameter we have is the color, which is green in this case. So looking at the CSS code up here, we can apply 2 parameters just for the vertical and horizontal amount of shadow. We can also apply 3 for the text shadow. We can give it 3 parameters. Say vertical and horizontal, vertical shadow, horizontal shadow, and the color, and the blur will be set to 0. And looking at this example output here, you can see some text. This is text shadow, and here we've got about 5 pixels applied to the vertical and horizontal shadow. So this is shadow is 5 pixels down and 5 pixels across. Text shadow properties. If we review the property list for text shadow, so we have color. We can set the color of the text. We can align the text align, letter spacing. We can put spaces between the letters. Line height, we can set the height of the line. Text decoration, we can put patterns around the text. Text indent, we can indent the text so many pixels. Text overflow, we can decide what happens with the overflow text. If it goes outside of the container, we can say truncate it, put in like ... for example. Or we can say just go outside the container and show the text outside the container. Text transform is setting the text to uppercase or lowercase. Setting the text direction is going from left to right or right to left. Unicode BIDI is setting the bidirectional text algorithm to enabling it or disabling it. Vertical alignment is aligning the text in the top, middle or bottom of the page or the container. Text shadow is applying some shadow text to your normal text. White space is setting the behavior of your text. So if you have white space between your words, and normally that would cause the text to wrap in your container. But if you just want it to carry on straight without wrapping, you can say no wrap, and that will stop the text wrapping. Word spacing, you can set the amount of space between different words, between each word. Okay, section 3, setting up fonts. CSS font selection lets you set up fonts used and their behavior. So for example, you can have Arial, serif and Courier fonts, and their styling is different, and you can tell CSS which fonts to use for which text. You can also use Google fonts from the internet, or you can use fonts that you purchase from other companies like Adobe. You can buy special fonts from them and from Microsoft, and lots of other suppliers. You can buy your own fonts and use them in your website. The CSS fonts details include the font family, font sizes, whether they're bold or not, and font styles like italic, bold, underline, overline, dashed. Fonts can be selected by generic. Fonts are normally divided into generic styles and then into font families. A generic style is like serif, which means a kind of text that has little extensions on the end of the lines, and like Times Roman has little extensions at the end of each letter. And then you have sans serif, which is without the extension. So you have serif fonts with like Arial, which show text which is without extensions, and that kind of text is much easier to read on web pages and phones. And then you have monospace text, which is like Courier, where each letter takes up the same amount of space on the screen, same amount of pixels wide, width, because the I and the O and the P's, the I takes up as much space as the letter A, and so when you have the A next to an I, you have some extra space compared to the other letters. And the monospace fonts were the ones that were originally developed 20-30 years ago, and they were on the early printers and the early computer screens and monitors. And as time went on, proportional fonts were developed, which when displayed, the proportional fonts like serif, the I would only take up the amount of space that the I was supposed to be occupying. So the I would take up less space than the letter A or G, and the fonts would be squashed closer, and it would be like more readable and cleaner displays. For example, in the sans serif font, you have, for example, here we have in sans serif, we've got the letter I, which is very, very narrow, and we've got the R, which is like double the width of the letter I, and we've got the S, which is double the width, then we've got the capital letter S, which is like 4 times the width of the letter I. So if each letter was taking up the same amount of width, then when you showed the I, it would have lots of space between the R and the I and the F letter, so that would be messy. And so sans serif proportional fonts get applied the width as according to the letter that's being shown. If we come down here and we see the non-proportional fonts such as Courier or monospace fonts as they're called, we can see that the letter I is taking up the same amount of space as the letter T and the H, and it looks odd because you have the letter I and there seems to be lots of empty space between the letter I and the next letter, which is T, and then you have the letter H, so it looks a little bit odd and seems to be like extra space for no reason. And here we've got I and S but there's lots of space between the two. And this was on the early printers and the early computer screens, because the technology was quite basic at that time. Proportional font technology was very basic. So you have a selection of different fonts, and you can buy fonts from different companies and use them within your website. Quite often, if you look at a newspaper website like New York Times or Daily Mail, especially American newspaper websites, you'll see the fonts are very stylized, and they look exactly like the fonts would look if you had a printed newspaper, and that is the reason for having special fonts, so that the computer screen, the newspaper pages and text that's shown on the computer screens, on your tablet screen or on your phone, is exactly the same as it would appear on printed paper, in a newspaper or a magazine, for instance. And that's a reason for having special fonts and having proportional fonts. And it helps with readability and presentation of your information, your diagrams and your tables and your text. So fonts and font families are very, very important, because that is what your end users will be looking at and reading and interpreting all of the time. So fonts are very, very important, as well as images. Images are very, very important as well, but fonts are very important for ease of reading and understanding and styling. Font families, a family of fonts, as mentioned, was you can have Times New Roman, which is serif font. You've got the little edges, extensions to the lines. So you've got the little large, small lines added to that, and to the end, and even to the eyes, you've got the little extensions, little feet added to each letter. You've got the Times font, and then you've got the serif font. And the way you show this in CSS, select the font family in CSS, is by saying font. For example, you can have a class called font1, and you can set it to font-family is Times. So any class that's any text that's using this class will have its font family set to Times. You've got Times New Roman and serif options as well. Font styling. This is once you have the font, you can set the text to be normal. You can apply styling to it. So normal is just normal text. You can make it italic, or you can make it oblique, which is leaning over at an angle, a bit like italic, but leaning over at an angle to the other side. Font styles can be set in CSS as font-style, normal, italic and oblique. Font weight is the darkness level of your text. When you buy a font, or you download a font from Google, for example, you'll see that the fonts can range in font weight from 100 to 800, and 400 will be normal, and 700 will be bold, which is much darker. But you can have lighter or much lighter fonts like 200, 300, if you want to show text that appears to be grey coloured. Also, the standard name values for font weight are normal and bold. So the way we present this is in CSS is we say font, set the property to font weight property to, which is font-weight property, and set it to value normal or set it to value bold. Font variant. This sets up the capitalization of your fonts. Small caps converts fonts to the same size and all uppercase, but slightly smaller than normal capitals, smaller capitals. So small caps are But basically sometimes where you've got a section heading and you don't want lowercase and you don't want uppercase, you want something in the middle. So what will happen is all the text will be capitalized and made slightly smaller than the normal capital letters. And the values that we can have for font variant are normal and small caps. So normal is normal text and small caps is capitalizing the text. So the way we set this in CSS, we set this property font-variant to normal, or we can set the property font-variant to small caps. Font size, you can set the size of the font for different screens, and you may want to use a smaller font on a tablet or a phone because you have a smaller width and you have a smaller screen size. And for a laptop or a desktop computer screen, you might want to have the text much bigger. So you can set different font sizes for different screens, and values for font size are normally given as absolute, so you can set it to say 25 pixels for example. So that will take up, each pixel is one dot on your computer screen or your tablet screen or your phone screen. So you can say each letter takes up 25 pixels. Or you can give it a relative size where you can say the size of the letter is 2em, which means twice the size of the default. So if the default size was 20 pixels, then setting a letter size to 2em would set it to 40 pixels. The reason for this is that you can have a default, a much smaller default on a tablet or a phone, and then have all of your sizes relative to the default size. Instead of having to change all of your sizes for every piece of text, you just set your default text size, say 10 pixels, and then you can have set all of the other text to relative size using 2em, 1em, 3em sizes for H1, H2, H3 and so on. And when you show the text on a phone, you can set your default text to be 5 pixels. When you show it on a tablet, you can set it to be 10 pixels. When you show your text on a laptop or a desktop, you can set it to be 20 pixels. So it's a much easier way of maintaining your text. So the example values that you can have are pixels for absolute text, EMs for relative text, percentages, so you can have, say the text value is 200%, which means it's twice the default, and then you can also have VW, which is viewport width. So you can have the percentage of your viewport width, which is how wide your screen is on your phone or your tablet or your laptop. So in CSS we use the property font-size, and we can set it to a value of 25 pixels, 3em, which is relative measurement, 100%, which is the relative measurement. We can set it to VW, which is 5% of your width of your screen of your device. Relative font sizes are better for responsive web design, since font sizes can be changed to suit the device display size in screen. Absolute sizes cannot be resized. Okay, looking at the code in Visual Studio Code and the output in the Chrome browser. We have a section at the beginning in HTML called viewport. The viewport is the size of the device the web page is being viewed on, and we set the content to take up all of the space of the width of the device width, and we say the initial scale is going to be 100%. So that means it's not zoomed in or zoomed out or anything. So that's the default value, and further down we go to, we have some different text, and for example, we have some H1 text here, and what we do is we set the font size to 10 VW, which means 10% of your viewable width. So if your screen, has so many pixels wide that you can view, then each font is going to take up 10% of that. Same thing on this paragraph, we've got 8 VW, font size equal set to 8 VW. Here we've got font sizes set to 5 VW. And looking at our web page output, we can see that with 10 VW, our text is very large. So each letter is taking up 10% of the width available for your screen, the width of your web page. Further down we have 8 VW, so the text is a little bit smaller because we're using less space for each. We're only using 8% of the width screen for each letter. And further down we've got 5 VW, which means we're using 5% of the width for each of the available width for each letter across the screen. Now, something interesting will happen when we resize this screen. Because we're using a relative measurement, we should see the text size change, because it's responding to the size of your web page, which may be on a laptop, a desktop, maybe on a tablet, or it may be on a phone. So you can resize this web page and get a response. The web page is responsive. It responds to the screen size. So as I gradually move this down, the text, you can see, is still taking up, the first line is still taking up the same amount. On the first line of text that we have here, it's still got the same writing, even though we've reduced the size of the window. The size of the amount of text across is exactly the same, because each letter is using up 10% of the width. So if we do that again, keep on going, now we get to a point where the browser says this is the minimum width that's allowed for the web page, so you can't keep on reducing it more and more. But we can see that the text has responded. So let's try it the other way. If we go up here and then expand our web page, at the top this writing is still the same. We keep on expanding the width of the web page and the writing gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's because it's using relative measurement. It's using 10% of the width of available screen. So yeah, so we have the same amount of, so this is called responsive web design or responsive fonts, and it makes it easier for people to read the text. Same web page on small screens and large screens. scroll down, we see the 8 VW text has increased, and 5 VW text has increased in size as well. Okay, so font sizes can be set in pixels, EM, percentage, and VW. Font size screenshot. So this is a screenshot of what we just covered. Font size width is determined by the VW settings. Got 10 VW, 8 VW, 5 VW, and this is the code that we just looked at. We've got our viewport, which is the device screen that's being viewed, so the port through which the web page is being viewed. So we set the width to the device width, and then we set the initial size of the web page is going to take up 100% of the device width. Further down we have H1, we set the font size to 10 VW, and then we have some text, which is this text here. Then next paragraph we have set the font size to 8 VW, we have some more text, and next paragraph we set which is this text here. Then the next paragraph we set the font size to 5 VW, and we've got some more text, which is the text at the bottom. Google Fonts are free fonts available from Google. They provide a safe, free and guaranteed source of quality fonts and font families. The way that you use Google Fonts is by linking to the Google APIs.com website. So what you can do is in your HTML you put in link relative, you put in a link tag, relationship is the style sheet, and hyperlink references to the Google fonts.googleapis.com, the Google website, and the name of the font that you want to, CSS family equals Sophia. So that's referring to the font that you want to include in your web page. And then when in your CSS, you would put in your selector, for example your body selector, and you would choose the Google font that you included. So you'd say font-family Sophia as per here, and then you would give it a font size, one of the valid font sizes that Google provides. Using Google Fonts, you don't have to rely on the default or specific fonts being available on your end user device, since Google Fonts will always be available from the internet. Special fonts may not be available on your end user's device depending on who they are and which fonts they've downloaded. And default fonts vary from device to device and from browser to browser. So Google Fonts are free and high quality and reliable. The Google Fonts website, if you look on search for Google for Google Fonts, you'll get a link to fonts.google.com, and here we've got different ranges of fonts you can download, making the web more beautiful, fast and open through typography. Typography is the study of fonts. Sans serif, you've got different sizes. Fonts are released under open source licenses, so freely available to anyone. Serif fonts, Roboto fonts, which are very good, making the web more beautiful. Handwriting fonts, different handwriting fonts and different sizes, and foreign language fonts like Japanese, different fonts for those. Going to the fonts.google.com website, your home page, you'll be shown a range of fonts. You can also search for you can search for your own fonts. You can see the examples of fonts you can download. Roboto is a favourite one. Very good for computer and tablets and phone screens, very easy to read. Then you have a range of other fonts, slightly different styling. So go to fontsgoogle.com and go and get your free fonts and include them on your webpage. This is the Google Fonts information page. Google Fonts is a library of 989 free licensed font families, an interactive web directory for browsing the library, and APIs for conveniently using the fonts via CSS and Android. Google Fonts were originally created by Google and launched in 2010. These are similar to Microsoft TrueType fonts, which you have to normally purchase, and you can also get fonts for the Apple Mac and the iPhone, which you would have to purchase from Apple. Fonts shortcuts. You can use the abbreviated shortcut to select your fonts in CSS. So you can use font : 25 pixels Arial, serif. So that's saying select this font, set it to 25 pixels, select the Arial font first, and if that's not available, select the serif font. So we can use this in shortcut instead of font style, font variant, font weight, font style, size, line height, and font family. Okay, looking at the CSS again, we've got property font, we've got 25 pixels Arial, sans serif. In this one we've got font, we give it style of italic, we give it text capitalization by small caps, we give it text weight of bold, we give it text height of text size of 10 pixels or 25 pixels, and we've got Georgia or serif fonts. The required values are font size and font family. These are the minimum parameters that you need for the font property. So you need to have the size and the font family, so you can have 25 pixels Arial and forget about the rest, and that's enough for the browser to be able to find and render your text correctly. If you want to get some more tutorials and more information about CSS, there's a very good tutorial on w3schools.com. Go to w3schools.com. This is the home page that we're showing here, and some /CSS/ and you'll be shown there's a CSS tutorial which you can work your way through and learn more about CSS. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget to watch our other CSS tutorials on Bain's Infotech World. As you can see, we've got a range of tutorials here. We've got tutorial number 1, which is introduction, number 2 covering models, number 3 covering attributes, and number 4 covering palettes, files and palettes, etc. So these are wonderful tutorials, video tutorials for learning and increasing your knowledge about CSS. Please go to this website and YouTube channel and subscribe and watch all of the videos and like and comment and put comments to say what you thought was good about the tutorial or the video, what was bad about it, and what kind of things you want to see in the future tutorials. If you let me know what you want to see in the future, then I'll make a video for it just for you.